everyone. I am Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker and the host of this Daisy Jones and the Six Rewatch podcast. When I speak, my topic is Take the Doughnut, which is another way to say Carpe Diem. It's all about going after the things that you want in life. And something that I wanted to do this year was rewatch the show Daisy Jones and the Six, but this time talk about it with other people like you. And here we are. We're ready to talk about episode 7, track 7, which is called She's Gone. This originally aired March 17th, 2023. It was written for television by Susan Coyne and directed by Will Graham. This is the one episode that Will Graham is directing. It's sort of amid a batch of episodes that are going to be directed by Nzinga Stewart, but I think it makes sense why this one would be a different director. He was on location in Greece for probably a lot of this time. So this is a Will Graham directed episode. And here is a summary, a description that captures the whole episode, but then we'll go into finer details. So the description is, in 1975 in New York City, Simone and club DJ Bernie begin a romance. They also work together, and Simone becomes a successful disco singer on the gay club circuit over the next 2 years. However, she is afraid to publicly show affection towards Bernie due to them being a lesbian couple. Daisy summons Simone and Bernie to the Greek island of Ithra. There, they find her rushing into marriage with a wealthy Irish nobleman named Nicky Fitzpatrick, who is initially unaware of Daisy's fame as the lead singer of a rock band. Despite making the cover of Rolling Stone, Daisy confesses to Simone that she wants to abandon her career in favor of a new life with Nicky. Simone and Bernie profess their love for each other and dance together at the wedding reception. The day after the wedding, Simone chides Daisy for squandering her talent and being selfish, and the two fight. Nicky, realizing Daisy needs her career to emotionally thrive, accompanies her back to Los Angeles. I guess before I get into a scene-by-scene breakdown, where I need to begin with this one is having not even yet discussed this episode, like the deep dive is still ahead, but I have a feeling I'm going to come up short on this one because I feel like the Simone and Daisy stuff there's so much happening. It's so complex, and there's a lot of lived experience that Simone's story is telling that I don't have. So, uh I apologize in advance if I'm like wildly underserving this particular storyline or this episode. And I deeply want people who have anything valid to share, any emotion, any lived experience, or anything that you can understand that I'm not understanding, anything that you want to contribute or add. This is a great one to add your comments into the YouTube comments. All of them are great ones for you to add your comments in, but I think this one in particular, I think there's going to be a lot of angles of this that, as much as I'll try to unpack this as I'm doing the deep dive, I have a feeling that there's a lot that I'm missing when I look at this episode. So you fill in those blanks for me and anybody else. If you feel like you have blanks to fill, you are very welcome here. So let's get into the scene by scene breakdown of it all. We're going to get opening credits. Now, if you remember, the first 5 episodes went straight to opening credits. Nzinga Stewart's did episode 6, and we got a cold open. But for this one, we've got Will Graham, and we're going back straight into the opening credits to start us off. And then we're going to get a needle drop here as a pre-lap, which is Jean Knight's Carry On. We're going to see Simone in her brown jacket standing in the middle of the street looking for the address on a piece of paper, the New York address that she has written down. It's been a minute since we saw Simone. We saw her say goodbye to Daisy episodes ago, and it's like, where has she been? What's been going on? Because in all this time, we've been pursuing what's happening with the Daisy and Billy relationship, what's happening with Karen and Graham. And now we really need to give Simone and Bernie their own time and their own episode. I don't know if there was any way else to structure this. Like, I don't know because it felt like we were missing Simone for a while. But when I see this episode, it feels right to have everything told in this way. So I don't know. Does it feel right to you to have this whole Simone and this is really a spotlight episode on those two characters? And yes, they integrate with Daisy and Grease, but we sort of saved up all their story to retell it here. So I think this is for me, I think this works for me in the sense that they're going to put an intertitle up on screen almost right away that says New York, and then another one that says 1975, 2 years earlier. So I think if you're going to rewind for their story, I don't know that it really makes sense to be cutting between that and other storylines that are later in time. So I think I'm happy with how they did this. But before we get that title card, we're going to see. So Simone is looking at the address. We've got some jerk on the street. This is what I wrote in my notes. Some jerk on the street, dash, come here, baby. This is how I feel about people catcalling. I hate it. I hate it so much. This guy, I don't know if you were named in the script. I don't know if you were named in the credits. I'm calling you some jerk on the street. Okay. We're hearing some lyrics for the song. You got rhythm in your soul. You got the groove under good control. She walks down the street. She's going to knock on a door, and a bouncer's going to say, sorry, full up. And then she's like, no, 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 I'm looking for Bernie. I'm kind of a friend. The bouncer nods for her to come in, which um, feels like maybe Bernie must know that she is coming and have like given the bouncer some heads up. But if the bouncer's just letting people in with this story, they need to work on their skills. Okay, so Simone's going to enter. We're going to get a club vibe, a little bit of disco music happening here, but very faint, kind of hard to make out for me. It's a little bit, and I think this might be intentional. It's kind of lackluster in here right now. Um, People aren't grooving hard, except there's a style of dance from this time called whacking. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a lot of this. It's a lot of arms like this. I that's whacking. And if you don't, go look it up, go look up championship whacking competitions. I've seen them. It's something, okay? Um, but so there's people doing that dance style. We've got some disco music very faintly playing, and some people who are kind of a little bit dancing, but not a ton. Um, Bernie is in the DJ booth, and Simone walks up to her. Bernie's like, I can't believe you came. Someone says, well, you said I had to see it. So she says, you weren't kidding either. She's kind of scanning, surveying the room. Bernie, interesting choice in the blocking here. I don't know if this was a choice um, from the actor Aisha Harris or if this was written into the script. Bernie sits for just a moment. She says, so Simone's talking. She says, you weren't kidding either. Bernie sits. Simone continues, admit it. Simone's kind of smiling a little bit bashfully. Bernie gives her a knowing look, and then Bernie stands again. She's only sitting for a moment, but it made an impression on me because I feel like Bernie is doing absolutely everything Bernie can do to create comfort for Simone. And just in this gesture of sitting, she sort of lowers her level and makes it so Simone maybe feels powerful in the room or in the situation. And it's just for a second, it's just for a quick line. And then she stands right back up again. She says, remember that surprise I promised you? And she holds up a record. She puts it on. And Simone hears her voice. You know, your love ain't enough. Simone's mouth drops open. The crowd's cheering. Ah, this is a song we've been waiting for. Simone's like, I don't understand. Bernie says, I took the vocals you sent me. I added some tracks for the crowd, and they can't get enough of it. Check it out. And now we see the crowd again. And this time they're really dancing. This time they're really into it. And I think it was good that we had that distinction of them not being super excited about the previous song and being very excited about this one. Bernie says, you've got fans. Simone's smile grows a bit, and we're going to hear her lyrics. It's your love, you know, because you know your love ain't enough. The song, we're going to continue hearing the song, but we're going to see Bernie and Simone kissing at Bernie's place. Simone shuts the curtains, and that really, to me, feels like the whole episode. Just that one little moment. I I think I want to pause there a moment and reflect on what we've just explored. So, first of all, it always cracks me up when I see dancing scenes in TV shows or movies, because the reality of most of these scenes on set when you're getting this footage is there's no music playing. So, people like it's hard for me to watch these scenes now. And I'm sorry if this has now this effect for you as well, but it's hard for me to watch scenes like this without imagining a whole bunch of extras like dancing to no music in a room. That's all I can think of. Try as I might to process whatever else is happening in this scene, it's hard to get past to that layer for me. Um, so that's happening here. Um, One other thing that I think is interesting about this scene is that if you remember, Simone is coming from LA, where she just had this experience where a producer stole her vocals. She recorded a track, and that those vocals were used in a song and credited to somebody else. And so we walk a really interesting, very fine line here with Bernie because Bernie has taken Simone's vocals and done something else with the song and has been playing the song without Simone's knowledge. And given what Simone just experienced, that could feel triggering, but it doesn't seem to here. It seems like Simone is able to compartmentalize what happened with the icky producer and what the difference is here with Bernie, who was doing this to lay the groundwork for Simone to be welcomed at her club in New York. Um, but it is an interesting thing because I could see this going another direction where Simone could lash out or fight back about it, or just feel like flashback to what she just experienced in California. I don't see a shred of that in her. Um, she does she does take a moment for her smile to grow. She's processing it, but I think that she sees how much Bernie is attempting to do for her here. I think she knows that there's a real genuine relationship growing between them, and they've had the opportunity to have multiple phone conversations between the first time we saw them meet and now. So even though we didn't get to see all those conversations, we heard that they were happening. So this is a really interesting layered moment for me. And now we're going to go to they hooked up, and so then they have that situation there. They're kissing in Bernie's room, and Simone shuts the curtains. It's like there even this is not private enough. It has to be totally private. There can't be anybody seeing what's happening. You can just see how protective Simone is and how protective Bernie isn't, for herself, but she's trying to meet Simone where she's at. So I see Bernie exercising a ton of patience. I see Bernie exercising a ton of maturity in this relationship. I think she knows what's in Simone's heart, even if Simone's really taken her time to get there. I think in any other dynamic, I would say, like, if somebody were withholding the way that Simone is with Bernie, I would tell Bernie to walk away. But they're they're gay and they're in this relationship and they're um like out in the open, and it's the 1970s, and there's so many things about that I don't understand, and it does seem like this is the only way Simone can do it. And so the advice I might give to anybody else, I don't know that I would give that here. I don't think that that's appropriate advice here, but it is really interesting to put myself into this storyline and try to really wrap my head around what this experience would be. Um, so now we see the next morning. I'm assuming it's the next morning where we see uh, Bernie's hand playing on her sheets. They're still in bed. Simone says, I don't usually wake up with people. Bernie's like, because you're cold, huh? Simone laughs a little bit, but like it's true. She says, you just kick him right out of bed. Simone's like, no, I just and she thinks about it. She looks at Bernie. She knows it's true. So she's like, yes. She doesn't say it in a funny way, but I think she's like so caught in that moment. She's gonna pull Bernie in. They're gonna kiss. We're gonna get another day at the club. So we're getting a lot of a lot of passage of time. Remember, we rewound the clock 2 years ish to get to this point. So we're gonna be cutting through time really quickly here. We're gonna get another day at the club. Simone is sitting in sort of like on the side of the DJ booth. Bernie's there too. She's DJing. Um, you're hearing Simone's song again. You're loving enough. Simone smiles. She's like, "Look at that! They all know the lyrics." She's noticing like Bernie's been putting in some work. She's been laying the groundwork for Simone to come here and have people who love what she does. Um, and so Bernie's kind of grooving. She's like, "Hey, you know what would make him really go crazy?" She holds up a mic, like, "You want to take this, right?" Simone's smile fades a bit. Bernie says, "My beautiful brothers, my lovely sisters," they start cheering. She says, "Here she is in the flesh, the Lady Simone." Simone looks a little stern, like I wasn't prepared to do something like this, but she does walk around to the front of the platform so she can sing from the front. The crowd's cheering. And we hear Simone singing, "When I was down, I couldn't see. The world was a dark place, but you showed me your light, how to live my life, and you swept me off my feet. Now I gotta sing, though I don't want to." Uh, Rather on the nose, these lyrics. If you want to talk about lyrics that match somebody's storyline, this would be it. To the word, pretty much. Everybody is pumping their arms now. So is Simone. She's getting into it. She says, she's singing, "There's nothing else for me to say, but don't tell me you're in love, because you know that I ain't, because you know that ain't enough." Uh, a warning to Bernie, because it is going to be momentous later in this episode when they exchange "I love yous" with some time gap between between that exchange. And then interview Simone says, "I could have sang that song all night. The crazy thing is they would have let me." So I mean, she just has walked into this brand new place and people are accepting her with completely open arms. And she still feels very careful, protective. She withholds so much of herself, but she's starting to open up to the crowd and she can open up to Bernie in private. Okay, so that was interview Simone. Now that in this back in the 70s, Bernie sets it up to play again, the same song. And Simone's like, "Again, how many times are we gonna do this?" Bernie says, "As many as we can. You've only got the one song." I love it so much. Bernie's like, "I will play this until there's no material left on the record. If they will let me play this, I will play this." Talk about somebody supporting you. I mean, Bernie is a rock, an absolute rock in this episode. Find somebody who treats you like Bernie. Okay. Simone's like, "Well, maybe we should work on that." Ah, okay. So no, she's future looking. She's forward looking a little bit here. Bernie leans in a little bit flirty. She says, "Maybe we should." And then she gets in a little too close for Simone, and Simone actually pushes her back. And Simone's like, "Stop, people are watching." And then she feels kind of bad about that. She doesn't want to hurt Bernie. She's sorry. But she goes back around the platform, walks away from Bernie. She says, "One more time." And so she's going to sing the song again. Bernie puts her headphones back on. She watches Simone walk away. Again, in any other dynamic, I'd be saying, if somebody does this to you in a public space, this isn't it. But totally different circumstance here. Simone is not ready to come out. And even in this environment where you might think people would be very accepting of that, she's not ready. And so the rules are different. And I get that. Simone and Bernie, we're going to see them sitting on Bernie's couch in her studio apartment. This morning, Simone's hair is wrapped. Simone says, I'd just rather be low key about it. That's all. So they're unpacking what happened the prior night. Bernie says, "I mean, what are you so scared of?" Simone's like, "Isn't it obvious?" Bernie says, "Look, there's always going to be there's always going to be somewhere where we have to be careful. But in the club with our people, baby, come on, if we can't dance there, where can we? I just don't want to keep hiding something that feels good." Simone smiles just a little bit. She says, "Mm-hmm." It's nice that Bernie wants that. Simone isn't ready. On Bernie's side, like she's not trying to be in the closet. And so that's got to be really complex for her that Simone wants to hide this relationship. And to be really honest with you, if you're anybody else in this club who frequents this club, people must be talking about these two, right? There must be suspicions about these two humans and their relationship to each other. But suspicion and confirmation are two different things. I get it. Okay. We're going to get another intertitle. We're going to go to 1976 here. We see Bernie and a sound engineer. They're at the controls of a studio. They're watching Simone in the studio. She's recording a song. Interview, Simone says, she was right. I was hiding and I wasn't yet ready to stop. So I put everything I was feeling into the music. Slightly weirdly worded line to me. I wasn't yet ready to stop. I would have put the yet at the end of that sentence, but it's just so Simone's talking about how she's channeling what she's feeling with Bernie and the restraint that she feels like she needs to have. And we're going to hear the song that she's singing in the studio. People say I'm free, but you don't know me. Oh. Interview, Simone says, and once I did, interview, Simone leans into the camera. She says, the song just worked. It's like, I get how much people resonate with this. People have been where I am, where she was at the time. We're going to see the crowd cheering. Interesting choice. We get this camera angle. It's an overhead upside down shot showing us Simone singing and a bunch of backup dancers behind her ready to do choreography. Really strange. So it's just overhead upside down. I mean, is this an upside down world for Simone? I don't know. It feels like it's right side up, if anything. So I don't know. It's a cool shot. Made me think, and I guess what does it add to the storytelling? I'd be curious what your interpretation of that is. We just spend a moment on that, and then and by the way, the flooring that the Simone and the dancers are on is like this orange lit flooring. And I do wonder if that might be a reason why we're getting this overhead shot, because that floor is just pops on screen. But to also reverse the shot and to have it like backwards, interesting. So then we're going to get a right side up mid shot of Simone. She's got like a sparkly, I want to say it's a robe almost that she's wearing. Her hair is curlier, wavier here. You're going to see an evolution with her hair in this episode, which I do think is indicative of being her most authentic, natural version of herself. Then we're gonna see that the dancers are doing choreography to this song. We're hearing people say I'm free, but they don't know me. We're gonna see Simone signing or writing on a record sleeve. She's sitting on a fire escape staircase. She puts the record in a cart for something called Monroe Records. We're going to get Bernie on a bike. They're both going to get on a bike. I meant to look this up. I didn't. The Queen of Diamonds card. Why are we getting that? I'm sure there's significance to this. There's no reason that they show us this if this isn't a meaningful detail. So there's like a playing card of the Queen of Diamonds and the spokes of the wheel. So again, look how many things I don't know. I'm trying to deep dive, doing my best. Simone's gonna get another bike behind her. I mean, they have such a process. You have like this little bicycle bell dinging sound. I mean, they're just such a unit. There's so much support there, especially going from Bernie back to Simone. Interview, Simone says, I mean, that's how it was back then. We had to do everything ourselves. We put it out on a tiny label. We hand delivered copies to every DJ we knew. It was fun. We're going to see Bernie back at the club in the DJ booth. She's watching Simone as Simone's getting her groove on stage. Interview, Simone saying, suddenly Bernie and I were doing 4 shows a night. It's a lot of shows. I don't know how many songs she has, but it's a lot of shows. We're hearing, I'm free. You will find out you were wrong. This is our last night together. Kind of being interspersed between other action that we're seeing, people in clubs. We're going to see, like, we're watching different performances of Simone in different locations as we're hearing the occasional lyric. And we're also getting interview Simone, who's talking in between all this. So I tried to sort of bunch up the lyrics where I could and bunch up what interview Simone sang. So interview Simone sang in the Midtown clubs where the mainstreamers danced, the roller discos in Central Jersey. All we had to do was play two songs and people lost their minds. And we're seeing like footage of her in different locations with different types of audiences. She continues, but we always ended our nights back at Better Days. They knew what the song was really about. We're going to see Simone really cutting loose and dancing with the folks there. We're hearing some lyrics: get around, say what you want, calling me and my friends deviants. What my condition is, it ain't the same as what my mission is. What my mission is. I'm a diamond under pressure. We're going to see Simone dancing for Bernie from the middle of the dance floor, nowhere near Bernie, but clearly like making eye contact and looking towards her. The closest Simone gets to flirting with Bernie in public. We're hearing again, I'm a diamond under pressure. And interview Simone says, I may not have been comfortable enough yet to dance with her, but making music together, making everyone else dance, it was the next best thing. We get this overhead shot, sort of diagonally pointed down, of Simone dancing in her beautiful white outfit. And I think this kind of shot, it reminds me of the fact that it was like not too long post COVID when they were shooting this, probably, and there probably were still some restrictions on how many people you could have in a room. So this shot, they found some ways to shoot these scenes with Simone in front of crowds that make it feel like those rooms are packed, even though they probably weren't. So this choice to sort of shoot down means we don't have to fill the whole room. So I do think it was a creative solution there. We're going to hear the phone ring. Simone and Bernie are cuddling in Bernie's living room again, and Bernie answers the phone, finds out it's for Simone, passes the phone along, and it's Teddy. And Teddy is going to disrupt. It's like, okay, this isn't just Simone and Bernie's story. Remember, this is also a show about Daisy Jones on the Six, and so we need to get back into that. So Teddy is going to remind us right now. He's on the phone. He says, "Hey, Simone." She says, "Hey, Teddy." He's like, "Who's that?" He wants to know who answered the phone. She says, "Oh, it's just my roommate." We're going to see Teddy on his couch, the pool, this beautiful couch, and then we're looking back into the yard, and we got the beautiful ripples of the pool reflecting the light. He says, "How's my girl doing? You still burning down those clubs?" She says, "3 a night, sometimes 4." He chuckles. He says, "I'm so proud of you." We see Simone Bernice kissing her shoulder. He's saying, "How's things in La?" She says, "How's things in La La Land?" He says, "Well, that's why I'm calling you. Have you spoken to Daisy recently?" We're going to see Simone, and Bernie is still kissing her. She says, "No, it's been a few weeks. Is everything okay?" Teddy's voice says, "Probably. We've had a record release party. She didn't bother to show." Simone says, "Sounds like Daisy to me." We see Teddy again. He says, "I was just wondering if you knew anything." We see Simone again. She says, "No, I don't, but I'm sure it's nothing, Daisy. She wouldn't miss the tour." He says, "Well, you let me know if you hear anything." Right? She says, "Of course." They agree. They say bye. She hangs up and she looks very pensive. Bernie is going to imitate her. "Just my roommate. It's nothing." And Smells like, "Shut up." And they do like a little bit of playful fighting. I feel like I need to pause there for a moment before I continue. Again, this is our reminder that this is a show about Daisy Jones and the Six. If you've already watched this through before, if you're binging it, you maybe don't like feel the weight of what it might have felt like on a first watch, where I feel like, we left off in the previous episode with Daisy just going to Greece, and the passport gets stamped. She's looking out at Greece, and now we get so much time on Simone and Bernie, so much time. And so you might be sitting there thinking, like, what was that cliffhanger all about? What's going on there? But we're going to take some time with these two characters. And Teddy just like brings us back to reality. It's like, remember the cliffhanger? Now we're going to get you back to that. So I think that's one piece. In terms of the way this was edited, I really noticed here, and I'm sure this probably happens a lot in scenes where you've got like phone conversations or people across a room from each other, but there was a lot of sort of like overlapping where we would see the character who wasn't speaking for the beginning of the character who was speaking's line. And then, when that person was finished, we'd linger on them for a moment as the next person started speaking again. And I think it really helped to connect the characters in this conversation, to help us see reactions as they were speaking, to make it feel like they were both on the phone together. I think if it had been cut cleanly, like this person speaks, we see them, this person speaks, we see them, it might have felt more choppy to me, but this felt very fluid. And so, those are a couple things that I was noticing about this. Um, and, of course, now we've got Bernie like, just my roommate. She kind of chides Simone for being so delicate with the details of their relationship, or that they have one at all. But they're keeping it playful, I guess. Interview, Simone says, Daisy and I had been keeping in touch, but it wasn't like we spoke every day. And, I didn't really think anything of it. I had my own thing going on. We're going to see a mark, and we're going to find out what that is. We're going to see a marquee with Simone's name on it, and it has Heatwave, The Tramps, Chic, and Simone Jackson. So we're going to see that marquee, and then Bernie and Simone come out of that location, and Simone waves to and walks past fans. She's not really interacting with them a ton. Simone and Bernie are chatting. Simone's like, so who's going to be at the Sahara? Bernie says Leslie, Lena, Alice. Someone's like, Alice? Alice never shows up. So they're having a work conversation in front of the folks. They get into the car that's waiting for them out front. There's a driver, there's like a chauffeur. It's all fancy. They look fancy. Simone thanks the driver. Bernie's like, Bernie clearly has news. And she's waiting for maximum impact. Simone's like, why are you making that face? He's like, I don't know if I should tell you or not. Simone's like, tell me. She keeps urging Bernie to tell her whatever this news is. They get into the car. The doors close behind them. Bernie smiles. Simone, again, we're seeing just a very common theme here with Simone. Simone smiles at Bernie. She's getting a lot closer. And then she notices that the driver is watching them through the rear view mirror. And she like stops and she backs up again, and she like gets all the way to her side of the back seat. And Simone's like, all right, come on, tell me. Bernie says, some execs from Cell Soul are going to meet us at the club. They want to press the record. Simone says, oh my God, that's amazing. Bernie's like, I know, right? And they're interrupted. This is like, so first of all, when I said, oh my God, that's amazing, that's like a level -10 of what Simone gives us, which is she's so excited. She's so over the top. And in fact, I'm hard pressed to think of a time Simone's been this effusive. I mean, this is really animated for her. And so a woman knocks on the car door. She's Miss Jackson. Simone, grabs a telegram from this woman whose name is Chloe, somebody that Simone knows. Simone looks at the telegram. Her face falls. I love some director, some cameraman, I don't know. I'm assuming what happened here is they told WB to spend as much time as possible reading this telegram, except there's nothing to read. It looks like it's like the first page of War and Peace that she's trying to scan. And then when you actually look at the telegram, it just says, I need you, Daisy. What is she looking at? She's looking at the fact that it's posted from Greece. Okay. It's a lot. It's a lot of eye movement to take in. But they kind of held on her. It was like, make a meal of this moment of your panic. And Bernie is like, what? What? And that's when we see the telegram. When I think about what Bernie's news had been, some execs from Cell Soul are going to meet us at the club. My assumption is that because they go to Greece, they miss this. And that's part of what adds, like, ramps up the tension for Simone. That's my assumption. I don't know that they actually give us a timeline on when that was supposed to be, but sounds like maybe probably pretty soon. And Simone and Bernie were probably gone a good week. So we're going to cut to Simone packing at home. She gets an "I need you, Daisy" telegram, and she's going to start packing. Simone says it's called Hydra. It's some island in Greece, apparently. Okay, so I also wasn't sure how to pronounce this, and I've done a little research. It sounds like when they tell Americans how to pronounce it, they say Idra, but I think that it's not really a D. I think it's like a the. So I think it's more like Idra. Um, that's my how I'm taking in the information that I've been gathering. So I'm going to try to call it that. Um, Bernie's sitting on the bed. She's like, and you're just going to fly there tonight? Just like that? I mean, what about all the shows we booked? Like, what about this really big opportunity? Simone says she doesn't have anyone else. She could be in jail. She's just so worried. She's like imagining all the worst case scenarios and she can't even finish her thought. Bernie considers. She gets up. She starts packing too, and Simone sees it. Bernie says, well, you sure as hell ain't going to Greece by yourself. Simone smiles and they kiss. One of the things I like about this episode also is the way that they're going to echo this moment later when Nikki starts packing in response to Daisy not being sure if she should go. Like the fact that you've got these significant others who just drop everything. They're like, of course I'm going to go and support you. Like I do think that we're seeing the picture of two supportive partners here in this episode, even though the depth of the relationship is very different and the amount of information they have about their partner is quite different as well. So there's that. We're going to hear the song Choo Choo by, am I wrong to pronounce this as let's see, Le Terrible? I don't know. I tried. I'm turning so red. That was probably wrong. It's a fun song, Choo Choo. We're going to see a boat sailing. We're going to see Simone in a full-on afro. I feel like this is just like her just embracing herself as much as possible. We're going to see Simone and Bernie who are standing on this boat, just kind of like not king of the world style, but definitely like out to greet Greece. They're looking out to Ithra. We're going to get the intertitle of the island name, and we're hearing, lyrics in French, I guess. We see, is it French? It might not be. Could it be Greek? I don't know. We see people working at the dock, and we're going to get some chatter. Simone and Bernie are going to walk around with their luggage. Simone's asking a woman, hi, do you know if there might be a taxi to take us where we need to go? The woman's like, taxi, taxi. She starts speaking in Greek. She points to some mules. She's like, that's what you need right there. The song Choo Choo is continuing. They're like, choo choo choo. So they get on their mules. We're going to see Simone and Bernie riding mules. I mean, this is the experience you have. They're looking around now. They're off of their mules. They have their luggage. They're looking for the address. Bernie's like, it's got to be one of these. Someone's like, it might be back that way. They're trying to sort it out. Like all these places look it's beautiful, gorgeous, and it looks very similar. So all of this is interrupted by we hear Daisy's voice. We haven't seen her yet, but we hear her voice. She's shouting Simone's name. We hear her laughing. And then the camera whip pans and we can see Daisy running down this stunning, it's like a staircase with archways, multiple archways, and just stone as far as the eye can see. And so, and Daisy, really well chosen outfit to put up against that. So it's like a beige stonework, and then Daisy comes down in this beautiful blue. Is it a caftan? She's like, Simone, my God, you came. She comes, she hugs Simone. Simone is stunned. Remember, Simone was expecting all of the worst possible things. And like she's ready to bail Daisy out of jail. Simone's like, yeah, of course I came. And Daisy says, hi, Bernie. Bernie greets her because this is probably the first time they've talked. Daisy, so Simone's like, she takes off her glasses. She's like, are you okay? Daisy says, of course I'm okay. Why wouldn't I be? Simone's like, well, you disappeared and no one heard from you for weeks. And she shows her the telegram. She's like, you wrote me this. I brought bail money. Daisy takes it. She laughs a little. She's like, I'm sorry, I didn't. I can see how this would feel alarming, but Simone's like, so you're not in trouble? Daisy says, I'm not in trouble. I'm getting married. And Simone's taking this in. A lot of different things going on here for Simone because, first of all, she's not going to be fishing Daisy's dead body out of the waters of Ethra. She's not bailing her out of jail. Uh, Perhaps the urgency of her telegram, maybe she could have been a little clearer about what the cause for bringing Simone to this island was. So there might be that, right? Like she just ditched, a bunch of booked shows and maybe a big business opportunity as well. This is complicated for Simone. So on the one hand, she's probably relieved. On the other hand, she might be a little pissed. But then for Daisy to say, I'm not in trouble, I'm getting married, that's a different kind of trouble. Like it's not jail, but it is a different kind of trouble as Simone sees it. And you can tell this whole episode, she sees it as a different kind of trouble. So I'm not sure that as this episode unfolds and we see the many looks they exchange with each other, I do think Simone is hearing a cry for help from Daisy that perhaps isn't fully reflected in the beauty of their surroundings and the good news of getting married. Like I think you could say like you brought me here for that, but like actually if Simone doesn't share some sensible words with Daisy, not a single other person on the planet is in a position to. So Simone's not off the hook here. And I think Simone has to really absorb what's happening around her. Hard to do because she's new to this country. I I don't have much impression that Simone's traveled a lot, if at all. So I mean, she has a passport, right? So she must have traveled a little, but like she's gonna have to put some work in, and she's really not on her home turf here. But she does have Bernie, so there's that. We're gonna see Daisy bringing them back to the house that she's in with Nikki. She brings them up around the back so they can go up the stairs. She's shouting for Nikki. Simone and Bernie are just trying to take it in, figure out where they are and what's happening. Nikki comes out of a room and he's standing arm in arm with Daisy. Daisy says, Simone, Bernie, this is my fiance. And Simone and Bernie look at the hand positioning of Nikki and Daisy, and their hands are clasped over his white linen shirt, like kind of over his chest. I mean, they're so familiar after a relatively short time. Both of them, Daisy and Nikki are kind of laughing a little bit. Daisy says, this is Nikki Fitzpatrick. The camera sort of pans up from their hands over his chest to his face. Nikki says, it's a pleasure. I've heard so much about you. Simone smiles a little bit, but she's trying to process because Simone hasn't heard a word about Nikki. Not one word. Never his name. Didn't even know Daisy was in Greece. So he says, please come in, make yourselves comfortable. I'll get you a drink. Daisy has this huge smile and it doesn't seem real to me. It's interesting because Riley Keough is making a lot of very specific choices as Daisy here, especially around the smiles that she has in conversations where smiles do not belong. And all of this feels like a choice to me because I've seen interviews with Riley Keough where she seems like a very measured, quiet person. She'll give a good interview, but she won't offer more information than needs to be offered necessarily. She'll answer the question, and when it's answered, she's done. And she, probably if you put her in front of a whole panel, she wouldn't be the first person to speak up. And so I don't see her as this character at all. So the amount of times that like Daisy smiles in situations when smiling isn't a thing that you should be doing is really something I note, but it feels different to me the way she's doing it in this episode versus what we've seen when she's fighting with Billy, because, sometimes she's saying a thing to Billy to cut him down to size and she's like, yeah. And it feels like a challenge. In this episode, especially when we start off here with this huge smile, it seems like she knows how thin the veneer of It's all good. I'm so happy and it's all fine. She knows exactly how thin that's going to be when Simone starts pressing her with questions. And she's just waiting for the moment when Simone starts pressing her. She knows Simone's going to have a thing or two to say about this. And so she's got this smile like, like, can we not yet? But it's coming. I think she knows that. There's no way Simone's getting off of this island without giving Daisy a piece of her mind. So um so Daisy waves for Simone and Bernie to come in. We're gonna hear there's so many, it's just so interesting to hear the songs from this episode because there's so many completely different choices that this episode allows us to make. Like the needle drops are different. So we're gonna hear the song Babalu by Xavier Cugat. Um, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Um, Daisy is sitting on a very well lit window bench. She's barefoot. She's smoking. Very atmospheric. She's got all of these really like old illustrations, portraits that are lining the walls of clearly not her family. But I guess, it's Nikki's place, and these are important people in his ancestry or in his world. Daisy's saying she's basically recapping how she got to Greece. She says, and there I was just sitting in my hotel room, spinning out. Simone's kind of adjusting in her seat, like trying to figure out when do I say all the things. She's still taking information in. So I was in my hotel room spinning out, and I figured I might as well go to Greece. And Bernie, great choice in terms of the shot here. We had been seeing Simone, but now we're going to see Bernie. She leans back in her chair so we can see that they're sitting in chairs side by side. She comes into frame and she chuckles a little bit. Daisy's going to stand. She's going to come over to sit near them. She says, I know you think that this is crazy, but he's just not like anybody I've ever met. He lives in the moment. He's free. And I told him I couldn't marry him without my maid of honor here. So that's why I wrote. And Daisy kind of looks at Simone searchingly. She's like, see how performative this all is? It's great. You should be happy too. Just be my maid of honor. Simone is speechless. This I have a real feeling from Simone that she will speak when she is good and ready, but she wants information first, and she is in gathering mode. And Bernie can see this. She clears her throat. She says, well, maybe next time just use the telephone. And they all chuckle. Uh, uh, fair, very fair. Nikki comes in with a plate of appetizers. This is just a start. Simone says, thank you. She sees Daisy dreamily glancing over at Nikki, and Simone interrupts it. She's looking at Daisy and she says, so what do you think of the six, Nikki? Addressed to Nikki, spoken to Daisy. Nikki was walking out for this. He turns back. He says, the six of what? Simone's head whips to Daisy now. Like she had looked at him for a second. She looks back. Daisy holds position. Simone's like, you never heard her music? Nikki looks at her. He says, looks at Daisy. He says, I thought you were a poet. He laughs a little. He says, I'm afraid my musical tastes are a little restrained, but I have heard her sing. Her voice is beautiful. Daisy smiles and shrugs a little at Simone like, that'll do. That'll do, pig. Simone's face is dropping. Like, okay, she's not in jail. She's not dead. But this is still a different kind of problem. like, like she's triaging the situation and just figuring out just how serious this is. Okay, we're going to see the camera. Cool camera choice here. We're going to start from inside the house. The camera starts in the window and zooms to the outside to the table where the four of them are eating. Bernie says, this has to be the best thing I've ever eaten. Simone's like, so this is your home, Nikki? Nikki says, well, in a way, yes. I spend as much time here as I can. We're going to see a shot here. It looks like the camera was set up on a roof and is pointed down so we can get not quite an aerial shot, but well, I guess it's aerial if it's overhead in any way, maybe, but it's not like a crane shot. It doesn't look like. I can't imagine they would have been able to bring one there. So it's looks like it's set up on a rooftop somehow, or in like a window on an upper floor of a house. And we're looking down at the table, getting a big picture of the surroundings. We can see a cat walking through the frame. This cat gets a lot of play. If you are a fan of cats, check out episode 7, Daisy Jones and the Six. And he says, I keep houses in Rome and back in Ireland where I have a few obligations. We go back to the table level. Bernie says, what is it you do, Nikki? And Nikki pours wine for Daisy. He says, I'm a student working on a dissertation. Simone says, but you own this house? Nikki says, yes. Simone and Bernie are trying to understand. They're like, okay, make this make sense. Daisy is smiling at Simone like, just go with it. Simone's not really smiling back. Um, you know, Simone's been willing to do the performative smile as needed, but right now, at this dinner, she's getting intel. And if Daisy is there for that, that's fine. Simone's like, and you have places in Rome and Ireland? Daisy says to Nikki, you should just tell them. Like, let's not be mysterious about this. The two of them laugh. Nikki says, my family members are members of a non-ruling sovereign nobility back in Ireland. Simone's a little cautious. Bernie, with interest, is like, wait, are you a prince? Nikki says quietly to Daisy, this is why I don't tell people. He's had this conversation. It's too much to be called a prince. Or to be thought of that way. Daisy kind of rescues him. She says his family goes back to the 13th century in Ireland and they have a castle. He says, castle. Yes, I have a castle, a very old and moldy castle. Daisy laughs and she rests her head on his shoulder. He kisses her on the forehead. Nikki says the whole thing is very meaningless outside a small aristocracy. Bernie raises her eyebrows a little bit and her glass, and she's like, well, hey, to your wedding. They all cheers. Daisy and Simone are going to make some long eye contact here. Daisy is smiling, but in a way that suggests she's waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, okay, Simone's going to say something. I can see she's locked and loaded. At one point is going to come out. We're going to hear the song Città Vuota by Mina. It's playing as we go back to that roof shot and we exit the scene. We're going to get sunrise. We're going to get the cat basking in some light, famous cat and from the show. We're going to see some mules going downstairs. That's interesting to watch. We're going to see this aerial shot of Ythra. I'm still not pronouncing that right, but I'm trying. Ythra? Okay. Simone sits in the bedroom that they're in. There's clothes strewn all over the place. They're just trying to live out of a suitcase right now. We can really cool shot. Actually, this shot will also be echoed later in a Daisy shot. We're going to see, Simone, we can see like half of the frame for real and almost half of the frame is a reflection in a mirror. We can see in the part where we're looking straight at Simone, we can see most of her body and like maybe half of her face. And then in the reflection, we can see her whole face and part of her body. And I thought that was such a cool way to line this up. It's not symmetrical, but it almost is symmetrical with Simone herself. It's such a neat way to do it. And we'll see an echo of it later. And Simone is looking down at Bernie, who's asleep. Simone's thinking she goes out onto the patio in her robe or a dress, or it's not like it looks like an outfit to go out for the day, maybe. Daisy is out on, I guess it's a patio, and she's strumming on a bouzouki. Is that the instrument name? Simone's standing in the doorway. She says, what happened to your guitar? Daisy says, I had my stash in the guitar case and there were cops everywhere, so I just left it. And then Nikki bought me this. So he, he knows music is a little bit of a thing, and he accommodated her. Like he is empowering her to the extent of what she's telling him about herself. And I think we're soon to find that it's the same with him, to be honest. So Simone says, you got better while you were recording. Okay, it's like, how do I get us into this topic? We have a moment alone, and softly, she's gonna start. It feels like Simone's about to compliment sandwich the heck out of this. You got better while you were recording. What an interesting way to enter this really controversial conversation. Daisy smiles. She says, I know. You don't have to tell her twice. Really? Um, so she keeps playing. Simone raises her hands. She's like, okay, next tactic. I can't picture it. His Highness in there. She sits across from Daisy. She's His Highness in there sleeping in a cramped tour bus with your bandmates for 7, 8 months. Daisy stops playing, but she's still smiling. He won't have to. Someone says, why not? Uh, Daisy's smile flickers a bit as she looks down at her instrument. What a cool moment from Riley Keough. She's smiling. She still has that smile that she had on her face at the dinner the night before, but you can actually see it flicker. Like it isn't going out yet, but this is the conversation that's going to start dimming things, right? And so I think it's a really cool, very subtle, controlled choice, it looks like, from Riley. Okay, so Daisy says, because I'm not going to go back. Simone sort of chuckles a little, like, can't be. She says, Daisy. She shows her the cover of the Rolling Stone magazine. She says, did you even see this? I almost cried. The newsstand guy must have thought I was losing my mind. Daisy says, yeah, I did. I saw it and I read it too. Daisy gets up. Instead of taking the magazine, she doesn't take it. She gets up and walks further away from Simone. She says, why would I ever go back to that, Simone, when I have everything I want here? Simone scoffs a little bit. She gets up to stand by Daisy. She says, come on, you can't be serious. Daisy says, I am. Simone says, such a awesome choices in this line read from Nabia B. From Nabia B. She points to the cover. She says, that's you on the cover of Rolling Stone. Like, can we just get back to it? Daisy takes it and smiles. She says, no, it's not. This will be echoed again later as well. Daisy is going to walk back inside. Someone's kind of blinking, trying to figure out how do I get through to this girl. Back inside the house, Daisy looks at the cover of the magazine. She is not smiling. That flicker, the smile is out. She opens to the article, Love, Lust, and Hatred, the complex relationship at the heart of America's next great band. The camera's going to show us a bit of the things that Daisy is focusing on. So the camera shows us a photo of the band at the studio. She turns a page. We see a picture of her, Billy, Teddy, and Tobias at the controls in the studio. All good there. She reads a bit. Soulful melodies and virtuosic musical interludes. He fired back. We already had that sound. Daisy was more like the icing on the cake. I mean, it's like the Diamond Head Festival all over again for this guy. So it's clearly a Billy quote. We're going to see the article continues in that same paragraph. Is the cake the band itself or Billy's musical genius? New paragraph that we get shown. Well, first we're going to see another photo of Daisy and Billy looking at each other as she hands them the lyrics. I think we may even have seen that scene. She's going to read another excerpt. Band frustrated, namely Billy. Billy told me that he thinks talent like Daisy's is wasted on someone like Daisy. But would Daisy's talent be present in a less difficult person? We're going to see a picture of Daisy and Billy in the studio. We're going to scroll to a shot of the whole band. And then we're going to get some magnified words. Addict, headcase, selfish. She blinks, shakes her head. She puts the magazine in a drawer to hide it. And she goes into the bedroom where she's going to see shirtless Nikki lying in bed. But we need to pause. We need to pause because, my goodness. First of all, Simone came ready with multiple entry points to this conversation. She started with I mean, is it a compliment sandwich? If it doesn't exactly end with a compliment, I don't know. But she started with like, hey, you got better. You were playing on tour. Well, were you playing in the studio? Daisy can acknowledge that and will not take the bait. And And just to start finding all of these different ways to start being delicate and then to start saying, no, 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 you're on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Like you have got to go back. You have commitments. She's putting the pressure on. She hasn't gone really blunt yet. We will see that level between these two characters, but we haven't gotten there yet. Um, so I don't know. I'm just so fascinated by this conversation, really. Um, One thing, though, that I feel like Simone is not being particularly empathetic to is what the content of this article was. Did Simone read it? Because Simone being like, look how great this is, pointing to the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, really disregards how unflattering an article it was about specifically Daisy. And I think, if she's going to make headway with Daisy, maybe she needs to address that. Maybe she needs to be able to say, look, the article sucks, but I was so excited for you anyway. Like, Daisy does, this is a painful article where, like, the worst possible the mirror of herself is being held up on like a beyond national level. It is now being presented to her in another country. She went to another country to escape it, and it has been brought to her on a mule. She's like, I can't with that article. Um, so, Simone is still, I think, gathering intel throughout this conversation. She's not going too hard with it, but she's trying. And the fact is, like, maybe I want to hold this comment for later. It's just Daisy has so many things that Simone wants and can't seem to have right now. And it's like the ease of which she seems to be throwing it away. But I do think um I do it's such a coping mechanism, her being here. It's not just about her throwing it away. And I do think that would need to be addressed by Simone if she wants to get through to her at all. The word selfish also, I think, is an important one to clock here, that it's actually said in the article, because it'll come back up again later with Simone. So Daisy's now hidden this Rolling Stone magazine in a drawer. She goes into her bedroom and finds a shirtless Nikki lying in bed. They greet each other. She gets on top of him. She says, I can't wait to marry you. And they kiss. Like, that's her takeaway from the conversation she just had with Simone. So now we're going to see a social outing. We're going to hear the song Mirza by Nina Ferrer. Daisy and Nikki are walking through a beautiful narrow alleyway. It looks like all the businesses are doing their work out in this alleyway. There's a haircut happening. Somebody's selling watermelon slices. They join Bernie and Simone. They're all going to go out to the dock. They're just kind of out and about on the town, on the island. Daisy's pointing out her favorite boat. We're going to see old men playing a game. Bernie's watching. Daisy and Nikki are laughing. We're just getting like an ambiance of the island life for them. And then we're going to see Daisy and Nikki. They arrive in the back of somebody's home. Bernie and Simone follow. They're all kind of dressed up. This is going to be a long social event. They're going to be greeted by a guy named Freddie. He says, Nikki, Nick, late as always. Nikki says, Freddie, I'm on island time. Simone smiles back to Bernie. They're going to go up the stairs. Let's see. We're going to see a bunch of people. They're all on, like, this party is on a rooftop balcony. So there's a whole bunch of people up there speaking Greek. A woman named Mary is showing Daisy around. She says, you already know this monster, pointing to Freddie. She says, avoid him at all costs. He laughs a little bit. She's going to continue. This is Georgios. It's a guy making paper airplanes. Maybe he's playing with the kids. He makes beautiful portraits, all in gold leaf. That sounds very elegant. Daisy says, hi, nice to meet you. This woman, Mary, continues. Here's Petros holding court as usual. Petros holds up a bong. He gives it to some other guy. He says, this is Manala shit. Finest quality. I wrote 28 stanzas of an epic poem under its magnificent influence. Daisy laughs and Nikki comes over. Nikki says, well, Daisy's also a poet, so you two are going to love each other. He says, we'll see about that. Oh, well, Simone approaches. She's smiling. She's keeping an eye on Daisy. She's taking in what Daisy's taking in because she needs more ammunition. Um, Petra says, "What do you write about, Daisy?" Daisy says, "I write about whatever I want to." Simone jumps in. She writes about loneliness mostly. Petra is like, "Ah." He says, "What do you write about?" Petra says, "Everything. Love, madness, mostly love and madness." Daisy laughs. Mary says, Petrus won a big prize for his poetry. Petrus is like, oh boy, this again. Mary says, 4 years ago? He says, yes. Mary says, stopped publishing after that. Daisy says, why'd you stop publishing? Petrus says, I didn't. I just say no to the money man, but still I write every day. Daisy's thinking, this is a different ideology, a different way to think about your art. Someone says, how do people read it? Petra says, come to our house. The door's always open. Simone doesn't understand. She says, isn't the whole point of making stuff for it to be seen, heard, shared? She smiles at this child that comes up. She's really dropping in and out of performative Simone, being pleasant and kind and smiling at people, and also trying to size up the situation for Daisy and not let Daisy think that she's buying into any of it. It's a really careful dance she's playing here, or performing here. Giorgio says, no, the point is making, my dear. That's where the joy is. Our job is to stay in a state of grace. Everything else is just applause. Simone's smile fades. Petros is like, he's right, never let other people tell you whether your work has value because then they own you. Daisy's thinking about this. Petros says, now I write for myself, for my friends, for the waves. It's more pure. Daisy's kind of trying all of this on for size. Do I like this? She's smiling a bit. Maybe she kind of likes it. She walks over to look at the view and to process what she's been hearing. Um, it's an interesting conversation, right? I think it goes to the heart of like, could Daisy feel comfortable with creation for the sake of creation, the way Georgios and Petros do? Or does she need to be heard? And if we think back to Margaret turned Daisy writing in her notebook, only when she like got into that bar and started playing the piano in front of a few people did she really seem like she was starting to come alive. And so my inclination is that this isn't like it's an ideology she likes the idea of, and there was a time in her life when she was making art or writing poems and poetry just like this or lyrics, but that she's not there anymore. I don't think she'd be happy with that if she really sat with it. Like if she didn't go back to LA, if they stayed in Greece, I don't think that she'd be okay just writing her thoughts in a book and not performing them for people. So that's my sense of it. But it's interesting to see different characters putting this idea out there and weighing in on whether this is the right solution for Daisy or not. We're going to see nightfall. Folks are still hanging out. It's a long hangout. And Nikki and Petros are smoking. They're speaking Greek. One of the women at the table says to Daisy, I've never seen Nikki so happy. Mary says, yeah, that's what I said. Daisy says, he seems like the kind of person that's always happy. Okay, folks, her foot and entire leg are up on this table where there's food. This doesn't happen. Who blocked this? What? How? Okay. So we see Daisy called selfish maybe twice in this episode, and this is the one time I feel like that's true. Her foot up on a table where there was food. Why are we doing this? Why? Ugh. I had such a reaction to this, and if not for doing a deep dive, I never would have noticed. Um, what a choice. What talk about making yourself comfortable, Daisy. Whew. Okay. She says he seems like the kind of person that's always happy. And the two women that she's sitting with get awkward and they look at each other. And Daisy's like, no. The woman says, Nikki's parents died in a car crash a few years ago. And for a long time, he was quite closed off, even until recently. Daisy looks at Nikki, who's like sort of across the balcony at another table. He is deep in thought. He is not smiling. He is deep in thought. And he's not talking to anybody. And the woman continues, and you had the feeling like he was seeing his life through a telescope from far away. Daisy looks back at the woman. The woman says, but now with you, I think that he's finally living again. Daisy looks back at Nikki. He looks back at her and he smiles, but she has a bit of a blank look. Um, it's a little bit like, the way Simone met her smiles earlier. We see people dancing on the balcony to Simply Sunday by the Sect. The lyrics here are, say, in every case, there must be rules. We don't take them for granted. We're not fools. Rules like maybe having to go back and fulfill your contract and do a tour. I don't know. Maybe a little on the nose. Okay, Simone and Bernie are hanging out on their own. Bernie's looking up at the sky. She's like, I never knew the sky could look like this. The stars must have been amazing. She's, being a city kid and all. And, there's, with those mules, it's not like there's smog. They both laugh. Bernie says, feels like we're on another planet. Simone says, well, we kind of are. I mean, nobody knows we're here. Nobody knows us here. She leans in close to Bernie. She stares into her eyes. She says, we can do what we want. We don't have to worry. But the problem is we're going to have to go home. Bernie says, we can have this at home, right? Simone smiles a little, but she doesn't, it's not in agreement. Bernie says, hey, can I tell you something? I'm in love with you. Simone lets that sink in. She's not saying it back. Bernie says, you don't have to say anything back. But they're holding hands. Simone hasn't pulled away. Bernie says, I just need you to know. I mean, my goodness, Bernie, this is like got to be painful. The unfolding of this process. But she's been patient. She's been mature. She gets I don't know. She gets what's happening here. She gets why this is so complicated. But yeah, Simone can't even say it back to her. Yikes. Daisy and Nikki are walking around at night. Nikki says they all loved you. So it's after this like day-long party that they've just had. Daisy says, of course they did. And he laughs. She says, are you surprised that they liked me? Nikki says, so surprised. No, it was great. I'm very happy. Daisy gets serious here. She's like, why didn't you tell me about your parents? He drops, like they're kind of, their arms are sort of linked. He drops their arms, but he's still holding her hand. He doesn't stop the contact in a way that Simone didn't stop the contact when Bernie said, I love you. People dropping real truth here, and the physical connection is still being maintained. He says, I'm really sorry about his parents. He says, don't be sorry. I'm here. And I'm with you. And that's all that matters. He says, I don't know if that's all that matters. Nikki leans against the wall. He's ready to have the serious conversation that he also didn't want to rush into. He says, I was sad for a long time afterwards, but at some point my sadness became a choice. He says, so what do you do if you have a problem or something's wrong? You just look away? Daisy, we can't scoff at Nikki for that choice because look what you're doing. Nikki says, I look at the good things in life. She thinks about that. So they look at you and the rest just disappears. It's like the Buddhists say, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And she leans her head back. She's hearing all of these ideologies that if she really truly believed them and if she really truly practiced them, they'd be really solve some problems for her right now. But does she believe them? Is that the way that she can honestly live her life? We're going to see that this has now prompted a very revealing conversation between Daisy and Nikki, one that they needed to have, where they're opening up their deepest, darkest secrets to each other. And Daisy says, we had this artistic and emotional connection. She's talking about Billy. Nikki's listening. She says, I let him in and he messed with my head. I think I thought we were, like soulmates. Nikki says, I thought I found my soulmate once, Francesca. Daisy laughs a little bit. He says, we were very alike, I think. It's easy to confuse a soulmate with a mirror. Daisy acknowledges that. She says, maybe he was a mirror. Nikki sits up. He says, this connection you had, it's gone, right? We see them reflected in a mirror. And Daisy kisses him tenderly. And he kisses her forehead. A couple things about this. This idea of mirror is really coming up for me a lot in this deep dive. The idea that we spent episodes holding a mirror up to Billy and he had to weather that storm and Once we started holding up the mirror to Daisy, she didn't even know what to do with that. And then the Rolling Stone magazine held up a mirror to her, and it's currently hidden in a drawer. And we see people reflected in mirrors here. And now Nikki's talking about, were you soulmates or maybe mirrors of each other? She's like, huh, it could have been a mirror. And that's the first time a mirror has been held up to Daisy where she kind of just took it in. Um, because if she's thinking bad thoughts about Billy and he's saying, any chance that it wasn't so much soulmates as you're kind of the same? Like, that's a lot for her to process that she might have denied with anybody else said it, but she's kind of running with it here. Uh, so also, Nikki, I mean, it's a good question. The connection you had, it's gone, right? But Nikki, it hasn't been that long. You know, what are we talking, like a month? I mean, it just hasn't, could it be gone, Nikki? That seems like wishful thinking. But, maybe it's felt like time has really like expanded since they've met each other and they've spent time with each other. Also, like her answer to him is not an answer, it's a kiss. And I feel like that's a deflection. So there are some red flags there for Nikki if he were only to look at them, but he doesn't. Daisy and Simone are going to sit on a bench overlooking the water. And Daisy says, well, she came here with you. That sounds serious to me. So they're unpacking the whole thing with Bernie. Simone says, maybe. Daisy says, but. Simone says, I don't want to be playing small clubs forever, Daisy. I want what you got. Daisy says, why can't you have both? Simone says, can I ask you something? She breathes in. She says, you sure you know what you're doing? Last time we spoke, it sounded like you were in the middle of getting your heart broken. Daisy scrunches down a little bit on the bench. So she was like ready to be confident and open in a conversation about Bernie. But now we're getting to dangerous territory. She sort of shifts in the chair and kind of like folds in on herself a little bit. Daisy says, it feels like a lifetime ago now. And someone says, but it wasn't. It was a month ago. The delivery is so dry and so perfect. Like, yeah, it wasn't a long time ago. It was a month ago. Daisy says, and I'm here now, Simone. Billy made me miserable. Nikki makes me happy. And I just want to be happy. For once, I want to be the one that gets to be happy. I mean, can't you understand that? Simone smiles and she's holding Daisy's hand. She says, okay, this has got to be hard for Simone, right? Like, because, I mean, look at all these things that Daisy has access to. Like, she could and probably should go back to her number one band that was just on the cover of Rolling Stone. But what she's saying is what she really wants is to have this like relationship with this marriage with this wonderful man from Greece who she can be affectionate with in public. And Simone can only aspire to all of these things. So for Daisy to like be talking about what version of this life would make her happy has to be kind of alienating for Simone here. We're going to go to Daisy and Nikki's wedding. We're going to get a close up on Simone with Bernie looking and standing behind her. Petros is officiating. He asks for the rings. Simone's going to come up and bring the rings with her. Daisy and Nikki will take them. Petros and Simone put the veil over. What a beautiful shot this is. Petros and Simone both grab a piece of the veil and they bring it over Daisy and Nikki so that Daisy and Nikki are under it privately. We get a beautiful close-up shot of the camera under the veil with the two of them. And Nikki says hi. Daisy laughs and says hi. It's this very intimate moment. Daisy's getting teary. Petra says, now let them make one to the other those vows which are between them and the gods. We get applause. The veil is taken off. They're smiling. It's like a transformational moment, it feels like, for them. Petra says, now let's let the sky hear and the waves listen to their sound. Simone's looking a little teary at all of this. And then they all cheer and Nazisite. And we're here, bells ringing from all over, everybody at this event. And then whoops and cheers, and we're going to sort of pan across ether. Interview Daisy says, I've done a lot of dumb things in my life, really dumb things I'll regret until the day I die. but I don't regret that day. And when she's saying that, we then go and see Nikki and Daisy dancing in the middle of a circle. It's lovely. Beautiful. Oh, that shot of them under the veil. Oh, so good. Um, I feel like when I see stuff like that, it feels like flashback moments usually, or like you watch a movie and somebody's spouse died, and then you see the flashbacks of them like really close up in their face, looking beautiful and ethereal. And now we've got like these two people in real time. We're under that veil with them. It's just so special. Okay, the camera's going to push in on Simone's face as she's watching Daisy and Nikki dance, and Bernie's sitting near Simone. Daisy's got her head against Nikki's chest, and Simone's kind of blinking back emotion. She wants this. She wants the things that Daisy has, that Daisy doesn't even really know how lucky she is, really. Um, and Simone says to Bernie, "Come on." Bernie says, "We're leaving already?" Simone says, "No." She takes her hand, she leads her to the dance floor. They're going to slow dance. Simone says, "Hey, I love you too." Bernie says, "No shit, but I'm glad you finally figured it out." And they kiss. And we're going to then see Daisy with her head against Nikki smiling. I mean, you know, Simone found a way to start getting comfortable with this, with like the reveal. So that's good. Uh, Bernie could use a little encouragement. Bernie's been great. Okay. Um, all right, nighttime. Everybody's on the beach. The party has continued. We got some bonfires. We've got some people popping champagne. Simone's sitting alone. She smiles. Nikki comes over with a glass of champagne for her. And this is where the mask comes off. Simone's going to get down to business. Simone says, "Congratulations." She smiles nice and big. He says, "Thank you very much." They toast. Nikki's like, "Okay." You think it's crazy, right? He laughs a little. She says, "No, I don't." She puts down the glass. Like, celebration over. This is what I really think. She says, "I think it's sudden." He says, "Yeah, true. I'll grant you that," he thinks. Simone says, "Crazy would be staying here forever and not going on tour with the band she took to number one." Just in case you were thinking about doing that, Nikki, that would be crazy. Uh, Nikki looks in Daisy's direction. He says, "Nobody tells Daisy what to do." Like, sorry, nothing I can do about it. Simone's poised with that. She says, "Well, you're her husband now. You can talk some sense into her. Like, you know what's right." She leans in with like an almost wink, like, you could talk some sense into her if you wanted to. She doesn't wink, but it's like, see, I know that this is the best thing, and you know that this is the best thing. And I know Daisy's hard to convince, but I mean, still just a thin layer of delicacy here with Simone. Nikki laughs. He says, "I could try, yes." And he sort of walks around to the other side of Simone. He says, "Who decides what makes sense? Who decides what makes sense?" It's like the first challenge to Simone. Like, how do you know it makes sense? Simone raises her brows a bit, and the gloves are off. She says, "Nikki, you have no idea what she's giving up and how much she's wanted this and how much it means." Nikki says, "Perhaps Petros is right. You don't need an audience to make your music." Simone says, "Daisy isn't like Petros." She steps closer to him. She steps closer to him. She is in his space now. She says, "She's not one of your friends writing sonnets for fun on the weekends." Nikki holds his ground. He says, "She says she's happy. Do you not want her to be happy?" I mean, how do you respond to that, really? It's a very measured. In fact, I really like the delivery choice. I think his name is Gavin Drea. Um, she says she's happy. Do you not want her to be happy? It's so measured. It's like yes or no. Um, because you asking her to go back is her walking away from what she's saying she's happy with. Daisy comes over smiling. She's like, "What's going on here?" Nikki laughs softly. He says, "What do you say, Daisy? We drop some acid." Instantly, Daisy says yes. She hasn't even heard the whole plan. She's already saying yes. Nikki says, "And we swim out to those rocks." She's saying yes to all of it very quickly. Simone's like, "I don't know that that's a good idea right now. Like, that doesn't seem safe to Simone." Daisy has already, like, she's like, sounds great. He's already held out the drugs. She's already taken them. She puts it in her mouth right away. Nikki looks Simone dead in the eye and drops acid himself, if that's even how you refer to this. Uh, what do I say? Um, so he looks her dead in the eye when he's doing it. Then he kisses Daisy and they walk over to the water. It's like putting Simone in her place, really. But but I feel good about Nikki here in this episode still. Like, yes, there is this finally there's this like confrontation between Simone and Nikki, between Simone and somebody. Simone's trying to stand up for the version of Daisy she knew existed all this time before. Um, and she's trying to get through to Daisy somehow, and now she's trying to work around it and just check in with Nikki about it. And they've had this like they've met head on in collision, really. Um, but in his position, Daisy has never once spoken about all this in a month. Like all this time that he knew her. This hasn't come up as a priority for her. She's saying she's happy. They just got married. And then here's this person coming in and raining on their parade and saying she can't possibly be happy with you in this life. Like, I'm not sure how he's supposed to take that. So his first step here is to defend what Daisy's saying she wants. I like Nikki doing that here. I like how it evolves for Nikki over the episode, though. I think it's important how it evolves because it keeps me on his side. Nikki and Daisy are now in the bedroom. Birds are chirping. It's the next day. He rolls up his sleeves. They're getting ready for the day. Daisy says, I don't think Simone's having any fun. Nikki says, of course she isn't. Daisy's like, why do you say that? He says, nothing. I just don't think she approves of me. Daisy says, um, I don't think it's that. I think she just doesn't know you very well. He says, it's just nothing personal. She wants you to herself. Daisy says, what are you talking about? Nikki says, Daisy, she's in love with you. He's like, that's crazy. He says, you see it, don't you? The way she looks at you, the way she follows you around. I mean, she flew halfway around the world at the drop of a hat because you asked her to. He says, yeah, I would do the same thing for her if she had written me. He says, it's not her fault. I'm not blaming her. I mean, who wouldn't be in love with you? And Daisy kind of blinks and he kisses her forehead and he leaves. And we see, again, the echo of an earlier scene, a reflection of Daisy in the mirror thinking. We see her in the room, we see her reflection in the mirror, and she's thinking. It's like she's split again. Um, Again, so if you remember back when Karen was like stirring things up with Graham and Caroline, and I like Karen could just say a little bit here and a little bit there. She'd plant a little seed and then she'd let it grow into some sort of horrible plant, a plant of the end of a relationship. And I felt that she was doing that on purpose. I felt she was manipulating the situation. I thought she was being a mastermind of all things. I don't think that Nikki's doing that here. That's my read on it. I think that he's looking at what he's seeing. There's the Daisy he's known for the last month. They're happy. They just got married. Simone's really important to Daisy. Simone came, and he's encountered this person who came with a person who's clearly her significant other, but who she's holding at arm's length for the most part. And only last night did she have any moments where she was willing to like be physical or really in any way connected with Bernie. So, and then Simone's having all these conversations with Daisy. So I think if you're Nikki, he's coming to some conclusions here that are, uh, I think I can see how he's getting there. I can see how he's arriving at these conclusions, even if the audience has a lot more information about the many dimensions of what they've got going on here. He's working with a very little bit, and he's just calling it like he sees it. And I guess I see how he sees that. But um, he's wrong. So, ooh. And unfortunately, it does have the same impact as what Karen did earlier, where he planted a seed now, and Daisy's gonna use it. She's gonna kind of weaponize the thing that he said, and it sucks. So we're gonna go outside. We're gonna see the cat walking through the patio. Why the cat? Is the cat a symbol of something? Is he or she? Simone comes outside with her bag. Daisy's up on the balcony ledge. She's smoking. She's like, "You're not leaving yet, are you?" Simone says, "Soon. We're gonna figure we could have breakfast, go for one last swim." Daisy says, "I have a better idea. You stay for one more week." Simone's like, "Hmm." She puts down her bag. She's like, "Okay." She goes up to join Daisy. And Daisy says, "I mean, we barely had any time together, Simone. You haven't been to the other side of the island. One more week, Bernie will love it." Simone's like, "I really got to get back." She gets up to that balcony area and she sees Nikki is up there too at the table. He's got shade all over. He's just in shade. He's covered in shade. Um, Interpret that as you will. So he says, "You don't have to do anything." Simone is with her arm, well, regarding she has to get back. Daisy says, "You don't have to do anything. If Daisy doesn't have to, Simone doesn't have to." That's her feeling on this. Simone's got her arms crossed. She's like kind of done with this nonsense. She's like, "I do." She's very firm about it. She says, "I have shows booked and bills to pay, responsibilities." Nikki clears his throat. He's like, "Yeah, I need to not be here for this." He's like, "I'll make some tea." Daisy says, "Well, you used to be fun, Simone. I don't know what happened." Simone's like, "Well, some of us have to work, Daisy." And like with a tone, with a real stern tone. She's like, "Some of us have to work our damn asses off to get even half the breaks you've gotten." Daisy stands and she sort of quarter turns away from Simone. She says, "I don't know what's going on with you." Oh boy. Daisy's not prepared for a conflict. Simone says sternly, "With me?" Daisy says, "Yeah." Simone says, "Hmm. You remember when we first met? You were that shy little girl walking around with your book." She walks back into Daisy's view. She's not going to let Daisy ignore her. She says, "Too scared to play your songs for anyone." Daisy says, "Yes, I remember." Someone says, "And what did I say to you?" Daisy says, "You told me to get on stage, Simone, and I did that, and I was miserable." Someone says, "And you think you're going to be happy here?" Daisy laughs a little and shakes her head, like, "Don't even go here." Someone says, "Daisy, I know you." She comes right up to Daisy like she did with Nikki the night before. She says, "You don't write music just to write. You need to be heard." Nikki is listening to all of this from the window. He's not just overhearing it, he is actively trying to listen to this conversation because Nikki needs information too. I mean, do I like people over like listening in on each other's conversations? No, but I also feel like Daisy was not giving him this information and he's getting a very honest read on the many levels of what might be happening for Daisy right now by this hearing this conversation. So I don't know. Simone saying you need to connect. This triggers Daisy. She gets panicky. She says, "I'm not going back." Simone says, "You have to." Daisy looks absolutely scared to me. She says, "I can't." Simone says, "You have a number one single. You have an album that's going. You have an album like that's to they're touring. They're gonna like they're topping the charts. She has to. I'm sure she has a contract. She she has obligations. She has a whole band of people who are resting on this." Daisy says, "I don't care. I don't care about any of it." Simone says, "Oh my God, yes, you do. You're just too fucking scared of Billy Dunn." Whoa. Gloves off. She was dancing around it with Daisy for a long time, but now she's not anymore. Daisy does not want to have this conversation and she's going to stop it in its tracks and she's going to use what Nikki planted for her earlier. She says, "Are you in love with me?" Simone flinches. Daisy says, "Is that what this is?" Simone is downright offended. She, it's like in fight, flight, or freeze. She's frozen. Simone is frozen. She's like regal and poised and offended, insulted, and she stays still for a moment. Daisy's breath starts quivering a little bit. Simone turns. Daisy touches her shoulder to try to like get her attention. Simone recoils. It's like an actual recoiling. Um, Daisy says, "Simone, I'm trying to." Simone just quickly leaves. Daisy gasps softly and watches her walk away, and then realizes the gravity of that and follows Simone down to the docks. She calls for Simone. Simone's days frozen. She says, Simone, I'm sorry. Simone turns to Daisy. She gives a very tight smile that is not a smile at all. She says, I do love you, Daisy. And I'll tell you what love is because you clearly have no fucking clue. It's when someone tells you the truth, even when you don't want to hear it. She has a tear rolling down her face. Simone does. She says, I love you, Daisy, so I'll tell you the truth. You're a real selfish bitch. The word selfish here probably brings Daisy straight back to the Rolling Stone magazine article. And I do wonder, did Simone read it? She must have, right? Like she's using a word that was very triggering from that article. Daisy looks forlorn. I mean, just like, oh, my only friend is going away, angry. Simone gets on a boat with Bernie, and we watch as Daisy fades into the distance. Daisy's going to get back home, and Nikki is reading the magazine that she left in the drawer. He found it, and he says, you never told me about this. Her face is soaked with tears. Like, if you're Nikki, address this. And he is. He says, I didn't realize you were this famous. She takes it, she crumples it. He says, I heard what she said outside. He looks really concerned. He says, this need to connect, is it true? Daisy can't even answer him. He sighs. He says, but Daisy, then maybe she's right. Maybe you should go back. He says, I don't want to go back. She says, I want to go back. I just can't get hurt again. Nikki grins. He puts a reassuring hand on her shoulder. He says, it won't be the same this time. He walks into the next room. He grabs his suitcase like Bernie had done at the start of the episode. He starts filling it with things. He says, I won't let anyone hurt you ever again. He looks over and he smiles at her, and she starts to smile too. I mean, look, this relationship between Nikki and Daisy, like, I think he did good things here. He was withholding his grief and his very traumatic situation from her for that first month that they knew each other. She was withholding all all this stuff about her life in LA from him, and they were able to make do with that until they were going to get married. And then the second they were going to have a wedding and other people were going to be involved, they couldn't keep their secrets from each other anymore. They couldn't have that private thing to themselves. They couldn't have the clean slate that they had offered each other at the start of the relationship. But then they did confide in each other, and they were both accepting of each other's realities. And so it's like, well, maybe this is the clean slate that they needed. But here's this conversation that Daisy has with Simone. It's obviously a really sensitive subject. Daisy looks like a nerve was touched when Simone says the truth to her. And Nikki can hear all of that. So I think he's right to say, like, I don't think that chapter of your life is as done as you seem to say it is. He seems to be correct about that. And now he's saying, we're going to go and make this thing happen. I like his choices. I really do. Yes, he was withholding a lot of his personal information from her, but when he realizes like Simone was right, he backs up Simone, and he's able to do it in a way that does get through to Daisy. So, he sort of, Simone and Nikki had a standoff, but it was effective, and Nikki is doing what was probably best for Daisy. So there's that. Okay. We get some official paperwork stamped, and we're going to get Nikki and Daisy driving. I think this is a stretch of Malibu. I don't think you can drive that road right now because of the fires that we've just had in LA, or at least we couldn't the last time that I tried to. We're going to get an intertitle, Los Angeles. A man on the radio says, not a cloud in the sky as a continued warming trend goes into full static change. No, we need clouds in the sky. We need drama. So we're going to go switch to Regret Me playing on the car radio. Daisy is looking out the window towards us. Nikki's looking out his window away from us. And he's saying, it doesn't look so different from home. The beaches, the palm trees, the mountains. You regret me and I'll regret you. Nikki stops. He's like, wait a minute. This sounds like Daisy's voice. You couldn't handle your liquor. He's like, Daisy? She turns to him. He's like, is this you? You were hearing I'm the slippage in the system and I'm perfectly ready to strike. Daisy says, I guess we're about to find out. And he is very impressed. But I'm not easing up on this mic. And that's where we close out the episode. Yeah, I mean, once again, this question of who is Daisy is something that comes up over and over again. And a lot of people are weighing in. A lot of people are offering alternative lifestyles to the way that she has been living. And there's been a lot of like, what if I tried this on for size? Or what if I thought about that? Or could I live this way? There's been a lot of that happening in Daisy's head. And the people that know her best in this episode are at odds saying, no, you could do this. No, you couldn't do this. And in the end, here we are in the car going back to the six, pretty much. Um, so I guess we're about to find out if this is her or not. And that's the episode, folks. We did it. Music from the episode. So we've got, of course, the Dancing Barefoot by Patti Smith. That's going to be our opening credits song. Carry On by Jean Knight. Choo Choo by Le Terrible. I don't know. I tried. Babalu by Xavier Cugat. Xavier Cugat. That's what I'm going to say. I apologize to everybody whose name I'm butchering in this section, this episode. We've got the song Città Vuota by Mina. We've got Mirza by Nino Ferrer. We've got Simply Sunday by The Sect. We've got C'est Tout by Susie Dallaire. We've got a song called La Luna by Nikos Oikonomidis. So many words I can't pronounce in this songs section today. We've got a song called Maintenant Je suis un voyou by Bruno Lace. And then we've got a couple songs by Simone. We've got You Love Ain't Enough and Last Night Together. And then really the only Daisy Jones in the sixth song we hear prominently in this episode is Regret Me. So it's a big departure. This episode feels completely different than anything that we've seen to this point. It brought Simone back into our lives. It just raised a fascinating question about who is Daisy Jones? What does living her best life actually look like? And now she's going back she's married. Okay. So Daisy's married and Billy's married. And now what? Okay, favorite quotes from the episode. I've got a couple of honorable mentions. I'm going to start with a pair that's an honorable mention by Simone and Bernie. So Simone says, again, how many times are we going to do this? Bernie says, as many as we can. You only got the one song. I love it. 3 cheers for Bernie. Nikki, another honorable mention. Nikki says, I think it's easy to confuse a soulmate with a mirror. It's a good point. Sit with that a minute and see where it gets you. I'm still thinking about it. My favorite quote of the episode is this from Simone. I may not have been comfortable enough yet to dance with her, but making music together, making everyone else dance, it was the next best thing. Okay, questions for you. I've got one. And I asked it at the start, and I'm going to reiterate it here. I did my very best to unpack the Simone and Daisy scenes here. I think I am missing a lot. So I would love to know, tell me what you see in Simone's storyline here, both in relationship to the conversations, the conflict that she's having with Daisy, and perhaps also in relationship to the experience that we're seeing between her and Bernie. I think it's so rich, it's so complex, there's so much to it, there's so much I don't understand. And anything that you feel like you understood about this episode, please jump in and shed some light, because I think that can only make this episode more interesting. And I think potentially it can give us a lot more information going into the back 3, episodes 8, 9, and 10 of this show. Well, there we are. episode 7. We did it. We are rolling through this series, and next time we are going to cover episode 8. So go out there, watch this show, and in the meantime, don't be the muse, be the somebody. Bye.